Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. In previous session, we discussed about the architectural design. Today we are going to learn about the assessing alternative architectural designs. Assessing alternative architectural designs. So the design results in a number of architectural alternatives. These are assessed to determine which is the most suitable for the problem to be solved. So the design produces different types of architectural alternatives. So here the assessing alternative technique is used for assess the which architecture is suitable for solving the problem. In this section, we present two different approaches for the assessment of alternative architectural designs. So those two methods are, first method, it uses an iterative method to assess design trade-offs. First method uses an iterative method to assess design trade-offs. Second approach is it applies a pseudo-quantitative technique for assessing design quality. So first method is a iterative method. Second method is the pseudo-quantitative technique for assessing the design quality. First method, iterative method is used to assess the design trade-offs. Second method, pseudo-quantitative technique used for assess the design quality. So here some assessing methods to analyze the which architecture is best architecture. So it is the first method, an architecture trade-off analysis method. So this is the first method in assessing alternative architectural design. So architecture trade-off analysis method. So it is short formally it is named as ATAM. So it is stand for architecture trade-off analysis method, ATAM. So the Software Engineering Institute SCI has developed an ATAM method. So the Software Engineering Institute has developed an ATAM method that establishes an iterative evaluation process for software architectures. It is an iterative evaluation process. So we are already discussed about there are two types of alternative methods. So first one is iterative method, second one is pseudo quantitative techniques. So the ATAM method is comes under the iterative evaluation process. So the following are the design analysis activities that follows are performed iteratively. So in this ATAM method, there are some activities are performed to perform the iterative process. So first one is collect scenarios. Second one, elicit elicit requirements, constraints and environment description. Next, third activity, describe the architectural styles or patterns that have been chosen to address the scenarios and requirements. So this activity again has some viewpoints, architectural views. First one is module view. So it is for analysis with the components. Second one view is the process view. It is for analysis of performance. Next, data flow view. So it is the analysis of the degree to which the architecture meets functional requirements. So these are the three architectural views in the third activity. Next, fourth activity, evaluate quality attributes by considering each attribute in isolation. Next, fifth activity, identify the sensitivity of quality attributes to various architectural attributes for a specific architectural style. So next to last one, critique candidate architectures developed in step 3 using the sensitivity analysis conducted in step 5. So these are the 6 basic activities that is performed in the evaluation process, iterative evaluation process in ATAM method. So by using these 6 steps represents the first ATAM iteration. Based on the results of the step 5 and step 6, some architectural alternatives may be eliminated. Some architectural alternatives may be eliminated by using the results of the step 5 and 6. And one or more of the remaining architectures may be modified and then the ATM steps are reapplied. So these activities are used to modify the architecture or eliminate the architecture, or we can also apply these 6 activities on the same architectures too. So why we are using these 6 activities means, so to identify the best architecture alternative for solving the problem. Okay, so this is the ATAM method. Next, architectural next assessing technique is architectural complexity. It is a technique to assess the overall complexity of a proposed architecture. It is a technique to assess the overall complexity of a proposed architecture. So there are 3 types of dependencies. So dependency is nothing but some components, consider some components which are depends on one component to another component functionalities. So either control flow or information flow. So anyway, so one component is depends on other components. So this architectural complexity is raised when the alternatives, so the components are dependencies. So there are 3 types of dependencies: sharing dependencies, flow dependencies, constraint dependencies. So sharing means, for example, that taking two consumers or two producers. So the two consumers uses the same resource to consume the data. So means two consumers are depends on the same resource. So for sharing the data. So these are considering as a sharing dependencies. So otherwise producers means who produces, two or more producers who produce for the same consumer. So those two producers also taken as a dependencies. So those are comes under the sharing dependencies. Next to flow dependencies. So flow, the representation of the dependence relationships between producers and consumers of resources. The representation of dependence relationships between producers and consumers of resources. So the consumers request for data and producers provide the data. So it is depends on the flow of information. So those are comes under the flow dependencies. Next, constraint dependencies. So it represents constraints on the relative flow of control among the set of activities. It represents constraints on the relative flow of control among a set of activities. For example, two components cannot execute at the same time. There exists a constrained dependencies relationship between two components. So means the execution of one component is the execution of the one component is completed. Next, the second component will continue their execution, start their execution. So means two or more components cannot execute at the same time. So the relationship between the two components having the constrained dependencies relationship. So next one, architectural description language. So ADL. So it provides a semantic and syntax for describing the software architecture. Just it provides the semantics and syntax for describing the software architecture. So these are the some methods to assess the architectural alternatives. So next concept, architectural mapping using data flow. So the mapping technique is called a structured design. Uh, it is comes under the category of data flow oriented design models. Mapping technique is nothing but a structured design. It comes under the means category of data flow oriented design method. This mapping technique used to transform the data flow diagrams to architecture. Just it convert the data flow diagrams. So in this mapping method, so it converts the data flow diagrams to software architecture. This transition process has 6 steps. So the mapping technique has 6 steps. This is a process to convert the entire data flow diagrams into architecture. So by using this process of 6 steps. So first one is the type of information flow is established. Second one, flow boundaries are indicating. Third one, the data flow diagram is, so DFD is nothing but a data flow diagram is mapped into the program structure. Next one, control hierarchy is defined. Next, the resultant structure is refined using design measures and heuristics. And final step is the architectural description is refined and elaborated. So these are the basic steps to transform the data flow diagrams into architecture. The data flows into the system and transforms into the internal form, and finally it flows out of the system in the form of external world data. So just so architectural mapping using data flow means data flow is nothing but it is a information flow. So it flows from as an input into the system, and it is converted into the another form, and again it is comes out of the system. So every time it is changes their forms. So the data flows into the system and transformed into the internal form, and finally it flows out of the system in the form of external world data. Means external world data means one specified form of data. So transform mapping, so it is also designed by using some design steps. So first one is review the fundamental system model. Fundamental system model is nothing but a basic model. So data flow diagrams are designed by using level by level. So the first system model in data flow diagram is considering as a context data flow diagram, or it is also called as level 0 DFD, level 0 context data flow diagram. Okay, so the fundamental system model or context diagram, it is represents the external components like external producers and consumers of data that flows into and out of the function. So a data that flows into and out of the function, it has the security function. It allows single transformation of data. So here we have to represent one diagram, data flow diagram, that is the context level data flow diagram. It is comes under the level 0 DFT diagram. So here we are explaining with a one example, safe home security function. So in fundamental system model, so it is represent the all external components of the system. All external components here, home security function system has external flow, so external components, control panel, sensors, control panel display, alarm, telephone line. So software, safe home software is comes under the transform. So it is represented with a circle. safe home software, it is taken as a one security function or component. It is also called as one transform. Okay, so here it accepts the information flow from control panel and sensors. It is converted into internal form. Again, it produces the external world data. So it is gives input resultant data to the control panel display, alarm on telephone line. So entire transformation process is done in the circle format. So safe home software. So that's why it is a transform, or it is considering as a bubble. It is the most important component in this diagram. So these are the basic fundamental system model. Next step, review and refine data flow diagrams for the software. So in the second step, we refine the data flow for the security function. So here it provides detailed information of the requirements. So in first step we are the architecture providing, so data flow diagram providing just basic external components. Here in this second step it produces some more. So level 1, so that is the level 0. Now we are producing level 1 diagrams, data flow diagrams. So it provides some more detailed information about the requirement models. So see here, so level 1 DFD of the safe home security function. So here the input components and output components are same. Here the software of the safe home, so safe home security software is elaborated. So it provides some more information, detailed information within the software. So how it takes the input and what is the internal transformation is performed in the software. So that is again divided into some more components. So here see here, interact with the user, process password, activate or deactivate system, display messages and status, configure system, monitor sensors. So these are the internal components of the software, safe home software. So this is comes under the second level. Next, third step, determine whether the data flow diagram has transform or transaction flow characteristics. So evaluating the, so here we are evaluate the data flow diagrams. We see the data entering the software along one incoming path. So the data entering into the software along with one incoming path and existing along three outgoing paths. Therefore, an overall transformation characteristics will be assumed for the information flow. So overall characteristics. So the characteristics of the transformation is done in the entire information, that is coming way and outgoing information flow. So next, fourth step, isolate the transform center by specifying incoming and outgoing flow boundaries. There are two types of boundaries for data flows. First one is incoming data flow and outgoing data flow. So incoming data flow transforms the external data into internal form. Outgoing data flow converts the internal data into external form. First one is, so there are two boundaries. So in fourth step we are identifying the boundaries of the flow of information. So there are two types of flows. First one, data flows. First one is incoming data flow and outgoing data flow. Incoming data flow transforms the external data or input data and it is converted into the internal form. Next, outgoing data flow converts the internal data into external form. Means it produces the output external word data or output data. That is different diagram. So sorry, different designers may select different points in the flow as boundary locations. So every designer can select their different points of flow of information, and they produce some boundary locations for the flow of data. Okay, next, fifth step, perform first level factoring. So this is mapping results in a top down distribution of control. Factoring means it leads to a program structure. So it produces the program structure in which top level components perform decision making and low level components perform mostly input work, computation and output work. Top level components performs decision making and low level components perform mostly input work and computations and output work. Middle level components perform some control and moderate the work. So they are just controlling the and operate the work between the top level components and low level components. So this is the factoring. Just it produces the one program structure. So it divides the all entire components in the architecture into three levels. First one is top level. Just it is used to make the decisions. These top level components use it for decision making, and low level components are performing the computations and input work and output works, and middle level components perform the just controlling monitoring work. Okay, so this is the fifth step. Next, sixth step, to perform second level factoring. So second level factoring means, so after performing the first level factoring, just we are identifying and dividing the levels of the components. Here the mapping of the individual transforms, the mapping of the individual transform is nothing but a, so in bubbles. So in our example, safe home software is the transform, is represented with a bubble or circle of a data flow diagram into, so the mapping of individual transforms of a data flow diagram into software modules within the architecture. Just we are mapping the individual components and that is individual components that is converted into the software modules within the architecture. So next, the general approach to second level is a one-to-one mapping between data flow diagram transforms and software modules. Different mappings frequently occur. So we can in second level we can perform one-to-one mapping. So just we are mapping the two or more modules and form the one software modules. So two or even three bubbles can be combined and represented as one component, or a single bubble may be represented to or expanded to two or more components. So we can combine two or more bubbles and form the one module, one software module, or we can split or expand the single bubble into two or more components. That is the second level factoring. Next, seventh step, refine the first iteration architecture using design heuristics for improved software quality. So components are explored and implored to produce sensible factoring, separation of concerns, good cohesion, minimal coupling, and most important, a structure that can be implemented without difficulty, tested without confusion, and maintained without trouble. So we are finally we are improve the software quality. Why we are performing this much of steps to for mapping technique? So we have to improve the quality of the software and produce the best architecture. So the it reaches the all attributes of the architecture. So in the beginning sessions we discussed about the attributes of the software architecture. So every architecture should satisfy them uh, high cohesion and low coupling, means minimum coupling, and good and most importantly, the structure can implemented without difficulty, tested without confusion, and maintained without trouble. So it produces the best software quality architecture. Next, refining the architectural design. So refining means refining the small number of components that consistent with effective modularity and least complex data structure. Refinement means it produces the best, means it reduces the difficultiness, and it produces a simple structure. So refining means we can re-adding or reconstruct the architecture, so it allows the any changes. Okay, so finally it is also produces the refining the architecture produces the best quality architecture design. So this is the second chapter in third unit. Next session we will go through a third chapter. Thank you for watching my video.